For the first time, I felt dumb. If they can do it, so can I. But I was completely wrong. If you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing it's stupid. When you use a straight ruler to measure a curved line, the line will always seem wrong. My first instinct was to try and fix my weaknesses. That just led to more frustration. A real turning point came when I was, why can't I get this no matter how hard I try? Have you ever asked yourself a similar question? Maybe you can recall staring at your final scoreboard, that page filled with 5s and 6 out of 10, right next to the official label, average or even weak. A quiet, heavy thought would settle in. Maybe you just born this way. Or maybe you spend your entire life being a good student, acing every test only to step into the world and suddenly realize you're the least capable person in the room no matter how hard you try. Hello everyone and Xin Chao, I'm Yi. I understand the feeling on a profound level. For 12 years, I was the model student. I collected grades and I was accepted into the top University of Medicine and Pharmacy in Vietnam. I had the resume that I supposed to be incredibly proud of. But when I stepped out into the real world, everything was different. I quickly realized that I was struggling with anything that fell outside of my highly trained skill sets, studying, applying logic, and passing exams. I would watch my peers, some even younger than me. They would just effortlessly lead a team, persuade a client, or become a magnetic person that everyone in the room wanted to listen to, and I couldn't do it. I tried to learn those skills, telling myself, if they can do it, so can I. But I was completely wrong. It was like I was trying to solve an emotional equation with a calculator, meticulously applying logical steps to something that required, well, feeling, and I was terrible at it. I felt dumb. I started questioning, did those high grades truly reflect what I was capable of? Because it certainly didn't feel that way. Something was fundamentally wrong, something was missing. And in that period of confusion, I finally began to understand what some of my friends must have felt all through school. The ones who were naturals at science subjects like I was. I could suddenly picture their faces when they received a grade of 5 out of 10. That feeling is a distant tightness in the chest, isn't it? It's not quite anger, it's a quiet, heavy disappointment in yourself. And it's from that place that we start asking ourselves the most dangerous question. Why can't I get this no matter how hard I try? Am I genuinely this incapable? Was I just born less intelligent than everyone else? If you have ever, even a fleeting moment, have a thought like that, then I'm so glad that you're here today, because I'm here to share you something that I wish someone had told me back then. That feeling has absolutely nothing to do with you. It's not your fault. You are not broken and you are not dumb. The problem is that we have been measured by a system with an incredibly small definition of smart. A system that may acknowledge different types of intelligence but only give an A+ or a 10 score to 2 types of them, leaving so many of us feel like we've failed before we've even begun. This flawed system makes me feel validated simply because my natural intelligence happened to align with what was being graded. But the moment I stepped into the world that validates another forms of intelligence, I felt completely inadequate, and it had made brilliant people doubt their own worth. So today, we are going to set all of that old rulebook aside, because we are not dumb, we're just unique, and we are about to discover why. The truth is, we are living within an education system that was designed for a different era, the Industrial Revolution. Its primary goal was to produce compliant factory workers and office staff with literacy and numeracy skills. Any brick that came out perfectly square, fitting exact dimensions, was labeled excellent. But if a brick was slightly misshapen, a little different, it was tossed onto a conveyor belt of defective products, often with a label of a problem student. But here's the fundamental flaw in that design. Human beings aren't bricks. There's a powerful quote often attributed to Albert Einstein that says, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing it's stupid. Tragically, our modern school system has become a massive tree climbing competition. And in that arena, the monkeys are triumphant. Meanwhile, the fish, the birds, and the elephants are left behind, thoroughly convinced that they are worthless failures. We have all been deceived by incredibly narrow and outdated definitions of intelligence. For decades, the world worshipped the IQ score. The belief was that a simple logic test, finding the pattern in numbers and shapes, could determine the full values of the human mind. But how could a 60-minute paper test possibly measure the profound empathy of a therapist? How could it quantify a physical genius of the Olympic athlete or the soul-stirring musicality of a brilliant conductor? But thankfully, history also showed us something hopeful. From time to time, there are people who are brave enough to question what we all take for granted. In doing so, they help us see the world a little bit more clearly. I want to take you back with me to 1983 at Harvard University, where a psychologist did exactly that. It felt less like an academic theory and felt more like he was sharing a profound secret with the world. His name was Howard Gardner, and with his book Frames of Mind, The Theory of Multiple Intelligences, he made a big impact on the field of psychology. In this revolution work, Gardner made a groundbreaking declaration: no one is stupid and no one is intelligent in one generic way. He argued that intelligence isn't a single fixed entity, but a diverse combination of abilities. He described the human brain as a multi-core processor, where each of us has a unique configuration. Some of us have a powerful language processor, others have high-end graphic cards for spatial and visual thinking, and some possess a world-class sound card for music and rap. Gardner initially proposed 7 types of intelligences, later added 2 more, bringing the total to 9. 9 different pathways to success, 9 different lenses through which to see and understand the world. But here lies the tragedy. Our traditional system only celebrates and rewards 2 of those 9: linguistic intelligence, reading and writing, and logical mathematical intelligence, numbers and reasoning. If you happen to be naturally strong in those 2, congratulations, you are the darling of the education system. You got the high score, the praise from teachers, and the pride from your parents. You felt confident, capable, and valued. But what about the other 7 types? Where did they go in those 15-minute quizzes or final exams? Most of the time, they was quietly pushed aside. They were labeled as hobbies, extra activities, or sometimes even blamed for taking your focus away from the so-called real subjects. Think about it. If you were a kid with a high bodily kinesthetic intelligence, always needing to move, you was labeled as hyperactive and told to sit still. If you have a high interpersonal intelligence and thrive on talking and connecting with friends, your name was likely written on the board for being disruptive. If you had deep interpersonal intelligence and were often quiet, lost in your own rich inner world, you may have seen as low or a daydreamer. You see, the problem was never with you, the problem was with the ruler. When you use a straight ruler to measure a curved line, the line will always seem wrong. So let's set aside all of those old scores and labels just for a moment and begin the journey to explore the real map of the human mind. Let's start this process of decoding with the first group, the ones I like to call the holders of the VIP ticket of our education system. There was the one who could recite historical facts perfectly just after one reading. They were the ones who could effortlessly write 3 or 4 pages essay in the exam while the rest of us struggled. Or they were the ones who would solve the math problem the second the teacher finished writing it on the board. These students are the class's representative of the first 2 types of intelligence: linguistic intelligence and logical mathematical intelligence. I grouped the 2 together because they are the absolute pillars of every IQ test and every university entrance exam ever designed. First, you have linguistic intelligence. A person with this strength is highly sensitive to words, grammar, and the art of expression. Their greatest weapons are the spoken and written words. Down the line, they will become our brilliant authors, journalists, lawyers, and captivating public speakers. Then you have logical mathematical intelligence. This person thinks in numbers, patterns, and sequences in cause and effect. They thrive on precision and clarity. They are our future programmers, accountants, scientists, and financial analysts. Now, these individuals are genuinely intelligent. The problem that the societies often come to believe that this is the only kind of intelligence that truly matters. And if you don't naturally fit into this group, you're immediately pushed to the margins. So who are these people on the margins? Let's move to the second group. This is the group I call the forgotten geniuses, or perhaps the children were sitting in the wrong classroom. This is the realm of the artistic and the physical. First up is visual spatial intelligence. Think back to your school days. Wasn't there always that one kid constantly drawing in their textbooks? During a lecture, their gaze would drift out the window. Teachers would scold them for not paying attention, saying their body was in the room but their heads were off in the clouds. But the truth is, inside a child's mind, a vivid 3D movie was playing that no one else could see. People with this intelligence think in pictures. They have a remarkable sense of directions and an innate ability to understand space. They can close their eyes and perfectly visualize how to arrange the furniture in an empty room. They see colors, form, and compositions where others just see chaos. In a school system dominated by black and white text, they felt lost. But out in the world, they are our brilliant architects, our visionary film directors, our innovative fashion designers, or even our top-tier surgeons. Would you really want a surgeon operating on you who was great at math but couldn't visualize the 3D structure of the human body? Of course not. Next, we have musical intelligence. These are the individuals who are deeply sensitive in melody, rhyme, and tone. And what did this look like in the classroom? It was the constant pen tapping, the drumming of fingers on the desk, the quiet humming under their breath. These actions was usually seen as noisy and disruptive. But for them, sound is a language. They hear music in the falling rain and in the rhyme of the city traffic. They can often memorize information far better if it's set to a melody. And the fifth intelligence in our list is a fascinating one, but it's also the one that has the most misunderstood: bodily kinesthetic intelligence. They were the kids who could never sit still for more than 50 minutes. They couldn't sit still, they wanted to touch everything. They wanted to run, to jump. In a traditional classroom that demands for quiet and folded hands, the children were seen as problems. Today, many are even easily diagnosed with ADHD. But the truth is their body has a mind of their own. They learn by doing. They learn with their hands through the sense of touch. Look at our world-class athletes, our master ceramic artists, or a skilled mechanics who can diagnose the engine problems just by Excel. That represents the top level of kinesthetic intelligence. Their bodies process information with a speed and accuracy. Just imagine forcing Michael Jordan or Lionel Messi to sit still and solve calculus problems for 8 hours a day. They would have become mediocre students. The world would have lost sporting legends and gained 2 bored office workers instead. So if you was ever scolded for restless or daydreaming, I want to take you a moment to find some peace with that. It was possible you were an eagle, locked in a chicken coop, being judged for your inability to peck a grain instead of celebrating for your power to soar. But the story doesn't end there. We've only journeyed through about half of the map. There are still others, more mysterious forms of intelligence to explore. Realms of genius that has less to do with equations and artistry, and everything to do with the most complex subjects on Earth, people and life itself. And this brings us to a fascinating puzzle. Have you ever wondered why is that so often that the student who got high scores in schools end up working for the student who got the average grades? The answer often lies into the next group of intelligences. First, we have interpersonal intelligence. It's the ability to read the room, to understand the unspoken emotions, motivations, and the desires about the people. This was the student who could mediate an argument between friends. They were natural leaders in group projects, not because they were the smartest on paper, but because they just knew how to make everyone feel heard and work together. They were often told off for being too chatty or distracting others, but in reality, they just practiced their innate gift. In the adult world, this intelligence is a superpower. These are our incredible therapists, our inspiring leaders, our masterful diplomats, or our trusted salespeople. The ones who don't sell you a product but build a relationship. They understand that life isn't about what you know, but how you could connect with who you know. And why that intelligence looks outward, there's another one that looks inward and just as powerful. This is our seventh type, intrapersonal intelligence. This is the intelligence of self-awareness. It's a quiet, profound ability to understand your own emotions, your fears, your strengths, and your deepest motivations. If you have this intelligence, you may have been the kids who always journaling, or who needed quiet time alone to process your thoughts. You were likely seen as shy, reserved, or in your own world, but you weren't antisocial. You were navigating the vast and complex universe inside of you. People with this gift has a strong sense of who they are and what they want from life. They are our philosophers, our spiritual guides, our insightful writers, and our wisest counselors. They possess a kind of inner compass that many of us spend our entire lives searching for. And the balance or lack of balance between the two can tell us a lot. There are professors who were absolute geniuses in their field. They could explain the most complex theories in the universe, but their personal life was in chaos. They couldn't maintain healthy relationships or or even seem to understand their own feelings. It's a heartbreaking reminder that you can have a PhD and still completely novice at understanding yourself. It shows us that without this intrapersonal wisdom, all the other intelligences can feel hollow. True success isn't just about understanding the world, it's about understanding your place in it. So let's move into our final group. This is the group that I'd like to call the hidden sages, the ones whose intelligence operates on the plane so deep it's often invisible to the traditional classroom. This brings us to our 8th type, naturalistic intelligence. Think back to your childhood. Were you the kid felt more at home in the park than in the classroom? The one who collecting the rocks, know the name of different insects, or could tell a storm was coming just by the way the air felt? It's the profile sensitive to the patterns and textures of the natural world. In a system obsessed with concrete walls and textbooks, these deep connections to the living world is often dismissed as a mere hobby. But this is the intelligence of our pioneering biologists, our environmental scientists, our master chefs who understand ingredients intuitively, and our farmers who can read the story of the land. They see a complex, interconnected system where others just see outside. And finally, we arrive at the 9th and perhaps the most abstract intelligence. Let's not even start with the official name. Let's start with a person. Do you remember that one kid in the class who seemed like a little old soul? The one who wasn't concerned with playground drama, but would instead ask teachers the questions that made the whole room go quiet. Questions like what happened after we die or why we are here. This is existential intelligence. It's the intelligence of the big cosmic questions. It's a deep human capacity to contemplate our own existence, our place in the universe, and the meaning of life and death. In a school system focused on providing clear answers for standardized tests, there is almost no room for a child who is brilliant at asking profound questions. They are often seen as being off in their own world, but that world is the world of our great philosophers, our spiritual leaders, and our theoretical physicists, the very people who pushed humanity forward by daring questions everything we take for granted. So there they are, all 9 of them: linguistic, logical, mathematical, visual, spatial, musical, bodily, kinesthetic, interpersonal, intrapersonal, naturalistic, and existential intelligence. Think of the human mind as the grand orchestra. Each of these intelligences is a different instrument capable of creating its own beautiful music. You may have a world-class violin section or a powerful brass section. The tragedy is that for centuries, our society has been a concert hall that demands every instrument to sound like a piano. So, now you have journeyed through this incredible map of human intelligence. The most important question remains: how do we do with this knowledge? How do we do from understanding to action? For me, this journey started with a very personal challenge. As that good student who felt completely lost in the real world, my first instinct was to try and fix my weaknesses. I convinced myself that I had to be this amazing public speaker, a natural leader, a master of all the skills I didn't have. But honestly, that just led to more frustration. A real turning point came when I stopped trying to be a perfect all-rounder. My value wasn't about being the smartest person in every single room. It was about finding the rooms where my unique way of thinking could actually make a difference. It was about letting go of the pressures to be great at everything, and finally giving myself the freedom to excel at what I was naturally good at. Now I want to make something crystal clear. Giving myself the freedom to excel at what I'm naturally good at is not a free pass to abandon skills that feel more challenging. For me, accepting my logical natures didn't mean that I just gave up on improving my communication skills. The crucial difference was the attitude. I started bullying my own brain, forcing down a path I wasn't built for. Instead, I started experimenting. I began asking myself, how can I use my natural strengths to understand this weaker area better? It became less about forcing a result and more about finding a personalized method. It's about leveraging your superpowers to gently lift off the other skills, learning in a way that works with your nature, not in a constant battle against it. If you're someone who lives in your whole life doubting your abilities, then your journey, I believe, also begins with a form of permission. It starts with giving yourself permission to heal. First, give yourself permission to forgive. Forgive the younger you who felt inadequate because of the low grade. Forgive yourself for believing that one single test score could ever defy the vast universe inside of you. It wasn't your burden to carry. It was the failure of the system with a broken ruler. Let it go. Second, give yourself permission to be a beginner. Maybe you've discovered that your strength lies in interpersonal or musical intelligence, but you spend your whole life neglecting them. It's okay. You don't need to become a master overnight. Just allow yourself the simple joy of starting. Pick up the guitar, join the community group, or write the first line of poetry. The goal isn't perfection. It's reconnection with your authentic self. And finally, the most important one, giving yourself permission to be different. Your unique combinations of intelligences is not a flaw, it's your superpower. The world doesn't need another copy. It needs your specific, one-of-a-kind genius. Own it. Now, I know that it's easier said than done. We live in a world that still favors our first two intelligences. So, how can we start honor our unique blueprint while navigating this reality? I want to offer you a few gentle experiments. If you suspect you have musical intelligence, the next time you need to learn something, try finding classical or instrumental playlists on YouTube and have it on quietly in the background. Just notice if the information flows a little more easily. If you think you may have bodily kinesthetic intelligence, don't force yourself to sit still for 3 hours. Try the Pomodoro technique. Work for 25 minutes, then get up, walk around, stretch, do a few jumping jacks. If you're trying to assemble the furniture, don't just read the manual, feel the pieces in your hand. If you're a visual spatial thinker, don't just take linear notes. Draw mind maps, use different color pens. Turn your study notes into a visual story. When you are trying to remember a concept, close your eyes and see it in your mind. And if you are a highly interpersonal person, find a study partner. Explain the concepts out loud as you were teaching them to someone else. Your intelligence comes alive through connection, so use it. These aren't hacks to cheat the system. These are ways that finally work with your brain, not against it. And finally, I want to share a thought to someone who is a parent, or who, like me, may be one day. We all want what's best for our children. We want them to be successful and happy. But in our desire to help them, we sometimes fail in the trap of comparison. We see our neighbor's child excelling at math, and we push our aesthetic child to do the same, believing that we are preparing them for the world. But what we're really doing is handing a fish a ladder and telling it to climb. Our only job is to recognize the true natures of our child. Are they a fish? Then help them find the cleanest, most beautiful ocean. Are they a bird? Help them strengthen their wings. Are they a monkey? Then, by all means, show them the tallest trees. Every child is born a genius. The tragedy is when we spend their entire childhood trying to turn them into a different kind of genius, one they were never meant to be. Before we bring our conversation to a close, I want to leave you with one final image. Think of this world as a giant, intricate jigsaw puzzle. Each and every one of us is a single piece with our own unique, uneven shape. In this puzzle, no piece is useless. A square piece will never fit into a round hole, but that doesn't make it a flawed piece. For years, you may have felt like a puzzle piece that just didn't fit. You tried to force yourself to fit into a space that was too rigid, and you probably blame yourself for your uneven edges. But you were never the problem. You were trying to fit into the wrong puzzle. My hope for you after these conversations is that you feel a sense of relief, a quiet, profound sense that you are not broken, and it has always been okay to be you. The world doesn't need another perfect copy. It desperately needs your unique, irreplaceable piece to become complete. If this conversation resonated with you today, share this video with a friend, sibling, or colleague who may be stuck doubting their own worth. Let them know they're not broken, they're simply unique, and that uniqueness is something to be celebrated. Thank you so much for sharing this time with me today. Take care and be kind with yourself. I'll see you in the next video. Kiss.